Well, it's official. No, seriously, it's official. The Republican Party doesn't give a rat's ass about you or me. Recently, I shared with you how on the night that the president was first inaugurated, a group of senior Republican senators and congressmen, including Paul Ryan and Jim DeMint, got together at the Caucus Room restaurant and pledged to do everything they could to obstruct and destroy his presidency. In fact, Congressman Pete Sessions later told the National Journal that their strategy was derived from the Taliban. He said that they had learned from the Taliban how to disrupt a party or person's patterns, and if they didn't get what they wanted from the president, they would become a Taliban insurgency. Now comes a list, which will almost certainly not show up on GOP TV, a.k.a. Fox so-called News, or on GOP radio, a.k.a. right-wing talk radio, that shows clearly and says loudly the real priorities of this Republican Party, of today's modern... I mean, this is not my dad's Republican Party. This is not even Barry Goldwater's. Well, actually, my dad was a Barry Goldwater and a Dwight Eisenhower Republican. I went door to door for Barry Goldwater. I remember Barry Goldwater would repeat. Oh, he would. Anyway, those priorities that are being espoused right now by the modern day Ted Cruz Republican Party have nothing to do with you or me, except in as how they want to let giant transnational corporations and billionaires steal more of our money and destroy more of our nation's commons. How do we know this? Well, because the Republicans have issued their demand list in exchange for their hostage of our nation's debt ceiling. And the list is pretty simple and quite illustrative. I mean, it just lays it right out. In order to raise the debt ceiling so the United States government can pay off bills from George Bush's wars, bills already run up and committed to by the Republican Party, they are demanding that President Obama do the following. First, Republicans say the president must approve the Keystone Pipeline right now. This, of course, is a pipeline owned by a foreign corporation, TransCanada, which will transport foreign Canadian oil from a foreign country, Canada, to refineries owned in part by the Koch brothers along the Gulf Coast, where it will be converted into diesel fuel and gasoline for export to China, Mexico, Brazil, and England. TransCanada itself has said that this pipeline will raise the cost of gasoline in the United States because instead of refining it in the Midwest for domestic uses, like they're doing now, they will be able to refine it at the Gulf seaports where they can load it on giant tankers and ship it to other countries. So for the first Republican priority, billionaires get richer, oil companies get richer, foreign countries get Canadian oil, and Americans who drive get screwed. Oh, and Americans get to keep the pollution and the attendant cancers from the refining process. Second demand, Republicans say the president should postpone giving health care to 50 million uninsured Americans for at least a year. They also want him to cut $120 billion out of the Medicaid program, which is health care for poor people, mostly poor children, the disabled, and the elderly poor. Nobody can quite explain why they are so adamant about this. I mean, if Obamacare is going to be a big failure, you'd think they'd want it to go into effect right now, so the president could have egg on his face in time for the election next year. But really, could it be that they're afraid that people are going to like it? As much as people like Medicare and Social Security, two other programs they fought tooth and nail and still hate? And thus it will be even harder to get rid of in the future? I think so. Third, Republicans demand that the president must abolish or at least substantially weaken the Consumer Protection Bureau. They do not want you or me to be protected from predatory big banks, and they want to make it easier for banksters to get away with multi-billion-dollar crimes and multi-million-dollar paydays. Pretty incredible when you think about it. I mean, it's frankly astounding that they can even say this with a straight face. Fourth, before they'll pay the bills for Bush's wars, Republicans demand that the president make the big oil industry and its billionaire owners like the Koch brothers even more profitable by cutting back on clean air standards and EPA regulations that save millions of lives and reduce climate change. Oh, and they also want the president to give more of your and my federal lands to the giant oil companies and their billionaire owners for drilling and stuff like that. And what do we get out of this? Nothing. Well, our gas prices go up. What about the Koch brothers who found the Tea Party Republicans in Congress? What do they get out of it? Billions. If the president doesn't do all these things, these Tea Party Republicans say, that's kind of Paul Ryan wing of the party, they will refuse to raise the nation's debt ceiling so that we can pay for the bills run up by George W. Bush. It's frankly astounding how the Republican Party has officially given up even the pretense of caring about average Americans. They are now proudly the party of the billionaires and the transnational corporations. You know, as a talk show host, I'm wondering. Well, as a citizen, as a human, as an American, I'm wondering how they're going to handle this over on Republican radio. You know, the Hannity show, for example, or on GOP TV over at Fox So-Called News. Are they going to cover up these demands? Or are they going to figure out some way to frame them where they don't actually tell the average working person what they are? Because, I mean, how long is it going to be before Republican voting working class Americans figure out what the hell is really going on here? This is serious stuff. I mean, the Republicans have basically come out and said, we are going to hold the full faith and credit of the United States, which, by the way, the 14th Amendment says cannot be questioned. So the Republicans are saying, we're going to stick a shiv in the back of the Constitution, right? The hell with the Constitution. We don't care about that. Or at least the 14th Amendment. We are going to off the Constitution. We are going to throw the nation into default, or at least freeze it up, or both, if we don't get this demand list met. I mean, this is like, you know, some guys got hostages in the Pizza Hut, you know? Ted Cruz and Paul Ryan and Eric Cantor and I mean, these guys, even people like John McCain are starting to back away from these guys. John McCain, in my mind, is kind of the heir to Barry Goldwater, and I'm not sure there's any Republicans left who are the heirs to Dwight Eisenhower. I think probably Olympia Snowe was the last one, and she's gone. But how long is it going to be? Serious question. I mean, do you know any of these folks who vote Republican because they watch Fox News and they listen to the right-wing talk radio and they might read the Wall Street Journal? You know, just basically the right-wing machine, the right-wing bubble, that they live in that right-wing bubble. Just look at the right-wing websites. How can they prevent these simple facts from getting through that bubble to the average American voter? The Joe Sixpack who votes Republican, how are they going to explain to him that the Republicans are willing to bring down our country and the world's economy because they want an oil pipeline going to the Koch brothers refinery on the Gulf Coast so we can ship Canadian oil to China? We keep the pollution. The Chinese get the gasoline. The Canadians get the money. Oh, and the Koch brothers, of course. How are they going to explain that? How are they going to explain, gutting the EPA and doing away and gutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? That's actively prosecuting banksters. How are they going to explain it? I don't get it.